Hi, welcome to The Wise Guys, a podcast where we unleash the unthinkable and step over the line to help us see things differently to enhance our worldview. I haven't said it that way in a while, have I? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's the old way we used to do it.
I like that.
But, I brought it in again, okay? So, hi, I'm Mac, your host, and in this episode, we're going to, I don't know if the word address is right, we're just going to chat about, we're just going to offer some perspectives over the pretty common, Christian perspective that we think that God has a plan, right? We've said that probably many, many times. It's probably been part of your theology, part of way you look at God. And, we typically use it a lot of times when we just don't have any other answers. A lot of times it just happens because we don't know. We're just frustrated. But if we do think that there is a cosmic plan, whatever that might look like or not, all right, what might it look like and how do we interact with it? And that's just a little summary. We're going to go, deeper. We're going to maybe run some side trails that you hadn't really thought about, but this is going to be fun, and I've really been looking forward to this.
You always put your hand up and refer to me when you say side trails. I'm the master of bunny trails.
He is. Embrace it.
But that's right. We're going to get you some.
I'm going to own it.
I'm going to get you some bunny ears, man. That's going to work.
I have a title for him. He's the ultimate authority of bunny trails. That's his title.
There's only 1 degree of separation between chaos and any topic when it comes to me.
Well, we just, we herd the cats here. So I want to welcome my wise guys, though. Hey. Of course, Coach Stu's in the house,
hey,
man.
Hey,
Coach.
Hey, guys. I don't know what God's plan is tonight, but my plan is to hang out with you guys.
And
that's my
fun.
Plan.
Let's have some fun. And the Rev, got the Rev, man.
I feel like we come together and on our night to record, and we're tossing a ball around. Throw that ball around and just see what happens.
Yeah, keep it in the air. That's what we
sometimes it's a dodgeball, though. I got to admit. Okay,
man.
But
I've gotten hit a few times.
I love the ball in the air thing.
Hey, let me say hello to all of you beautiful exotic cocktails out there. Hello.
Yes.
Welcome.
Catch
the ball.
Here it's coming your way.
We're glad to have you, without a doubt. Thanks for joining us. So,
all
right. So guess what? It's time for.
What is it? Words to the wise.
I'm feeling wisdom coming on.
Words to the wise. Okay, here we go. Let me put my Gandalf hat on, right?
Ooh,
my hood,
like
something like that. Here. Okay, here it is.
Download.
Yeah, download. All right. So here we go. Keep your eyes on the road and your head out of your apps.
I love this. I love this.
Yeah. Think about this. What are you thinking about?
So, I have a story to tell. So my daughter's all grown up now, but when she was younger and she got a phone, the rule was this: you cannot walk and be holding your phone.
That's
anywhere.
Pretty good advice.
You probably saved her a lot of bumps in the head.
Well, think about it. I've been driving through parking lots where there are people just looking down, and they think that they're bigger than my Jeep, and they're not. No. So that was always the rule: is keep your, pay attention to what's around you, actually live your life and experience it.
This last week, I've been holding a mantra. I'm just reminding myself: look up. Look up, look up. And whether it's in the phone or it's just downtrodden, just look up. And I tell you, just that simple act, I feel happier. I feel more joyous. I feel more fulfilled.
Well, I think that's a part of, yes, I take it out of the same thing that says if you're focused on your apps, even if it's not dangerous, which it certainly can be, is Stu's story, you're missing so much else. There's just so many other great things that are going on around you that if you got your face stuck in the doggone app, you don't get to experience it.
Another point of that is not only are you missing life, life is missing you. Knock, knock, knock. I want to know you. And if you're in an app, I don't get to see you, feel you, know you, and experience you.
So one of my favorite people said this: there are no ordinary moments. You know who said that?
Is it Richard Orr?
Dan Millman.
Oh, Dan Millman.
Who wrote a book that changed my life, Way of the Peaceful Warrior, which is also a movie. True. If you haven't read this book, you have to read this book.
I remember when you turned me onto that years ago.
Oh, it is. And he talks about living in the moment, and he's the one that said there's never nothing going on. There's always something happening, but you got to pay attention to it. look around.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree. We talk about getting your antennas up.
Yeah.
It's hard to have relationships if your only relationship is with your phone. Okay. I mean, again, like the Rev said, you just gotta, just look up. There's lots of people out there, and there's lots to be experienced. All right, pull yourself out a little bit. So.
My wife has sometimes said, put the other woman in our life down. It's my phone.
Your work.
Yeah, man.
Okay, I get it.
You didn't name your phone, did you? I don't think you should do that.
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
No, it's certainly not a female name. Okay. Yeah.
Well, life is interconnected, right?
That's
there's meaning in every experience. If you look for it, you can't be sleepwalking, man. You got to be awake.
So what are we awake to tonight? What are our antennas attuned?
Well, I think not only are we awake to it tonight, but I want to give you, our listeners, we're going to pull back the curtain a little bit here on us, the three of us, all right?
Look out.
Because, every week we try to give you some wisdom, we try to give you some perspective, and maybe sometimes this can, at least it might feel like when we do this, we got it figured out. And we're just trying to pass it along.
An illusion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
We sit up here and, we're trying to impart to you down there. So this week, the three of us, we talk about what we're going to talk about. And we talk about this all the time. I mean, it just doesn't, willy-nilly, we don't just walk in here and say, what are we talking about tonight, guys? And so we were working through some new stuff, thinking, new thinking. Right? We ask you guys to new think all the time. Mm-hmm. And we were confronted with that very same thing this week with some new ideas as we were thinking about an episode. And it was really, really great to see the dynamic as it was going back and forth between us. And what made me think and look up and go, this is exactly what we're encouraging you to do, is to open up your brain, consider some possibilities that you hadn't ever thought about before. Engage, wrestle with. I was using that. Coach Stu had to put his sniglet on, and just do it together. And it was amazing.
I'm not putting on a sniglet together. I'm sorry.
Do it together. I love it.
I think they have one for Siamese twins, maybe. I'm not sure.
I got something for you, Rev.
Feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So anyway, we just wanted you to know that we've been going through the same thing. I'm not just using this as one example, but it was just right up front with us this last week. And I really wanted to just share this with our listeners that says we're going through the same things. And we try to come out the other end with bedazzlement. Well, I'll use that
And
word.
it's not always comfortable. You're absolutely right. Sometimes it's like we're in the fire of refinement. But when we stay there with each other, as friends, as brothers, something good can happen. Even if it's
absolutely.
like we're wrestling a little bit, to use wrestling as the analogy.
Sure.
It's if you can stay in the arena, something beautiful can happen. And that's what we ask our listeners to do.
And
just
it will.
stay with us, even if it feels a little bit different than what you might believe. Stay with us.
Yeah, just ponder it, man.
Yeah.
Just ponder it. Okay.
Yep.
So we went through it, and it was a great experience for us. So we're just living what we talk about, I guess, is what I'm really trying to say as well. All right. So now we're back to our theme for tonight, our conversation, our focus, and that is asking a question, which I can't wait for the Rev to kind of give his perspective on this, because I thought it was great in the pre-show we were doing.
Don't worry, it'll only be an hour and a half.
Oh man, that was awesome. I loved it. Okay, so here's what we're going to just kind of press into. There's a lot of questions that come up when we're trying to understand God's plan, in quotes, right? And so here's some questions. What role do we play in the plan? Is God really good? Does God have expectations of us in this grand plan? Is there a right answer to this question? What is God's plan? In order to be a Christian, do you need to have some answers, or you're less than what you should be, whatever it might be?
And I'm going to add it, to be a good Christian, to be a good Hindu, to be a good Buddhist, to be a good Muslim, all of the above.
Be a good person of faith.
Yep.
Maybe we can say
There you
that.
go.
How about it?
I like that.
I like that. All right.
To be a good human.
Be a good human. All right. That doesn't need to
Be a
take
good you.
be a good you. Hey, there.
Are we going to Dr. Seuss?
There. Be a good you. Not a who, but a you.
A you, yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, here we go. All right. So I took this quote. If none of you know this guy, you need to read about it. You need to read some of his stuff. You need to watch his movie. William Paul Young, W. Paul Young. He wrote The Shack. He's really got some really cool perspectives on a lot of stuff. You might not agree with everything, and that's okay. But I encourage you to, enter into some of his stuff because it's really good. So here's a quote that I took from one of his books, and I'm going to read it, and then we're going to go on, and then truly I'm going to bring it back into the conversation at the end so that maybe you can now filter what we're going to talk about, and maybe it'll have a little better context, if we talk about it again. So here's the quote. What if there is no plan for your life, but rather a relationship in which God constantly invites us to co-create, respectfully submitting to the choices we bring to the table? He then climbs into them and begins to craft something living and useful and good, even from the worst of our ignorant blunders. I love that. I love the connotation, the way that, maybe we need to look at the plan a little bit differently. It did for me. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say. So
I like that last line. I think it's Joseph in the Older Testament that says something to the effect of what man has used for evil, God has used for good, or intended for evil, God has used for good.
Yeah,
I believe that
parallel. Yeah,
even our ignorant blunders.
Right. Yeah, we're beautiful exotic cocktails, as Stu tells us and encourages us every week. And so with that, God loves the umbrellas, man. He loves the pieces of fruit. He loves all of it. It's just who we are, right? So keep that in mind, but we're going to bring it back. We're going to bring it back, and maybe it will make a little more sense, or maybe you can relate it to some of the stuff we're talking about when we get there. Okay. So here's the scoop. We're going to talk about this in two different ways. We're going to talk about it in the big sense, the macro sense, as God may operate in the cosmos, however I can phrase that. All right, the big picture, the arc. And then the second half of the episode, we're going to bring it down maybe and share some thoughts, or at least some ideas about now bring it into the micro, into us, maybe personally, corporately, but now we're bringing it into our lives and how it filters through everything that we do. So that's kind of how this thing's going to flow, all right? So the macro perspective, we're just going to go, all right? So here's a macro perspective. God created everything at a point in time.
So we ask questions. Is God still creating?
How can bad things happen to good people?
Are we part of his new creation?
Yeah, or did he just wind it up and leave it to run?
Is he still involved? And to what extent?
Is there an extent to his love?
You know, how we answer these questions determines, to a very large extent, our world view.
Yeah, and is there a plan of salvation through sacrifice and reconciliation?
Right.
So, we fire hosed you there with a lot of the questions that might come up that we might have, okay? And so now we're going to kind of fold back, and let's see if we can flesh out a few of these questions, just give some perspective on them from our perspectives. And again, keep in mind, when I might share a perspective, or Coach Stu or the Rev, a lot of times we're looking at each other going, yeah, man. Yeah, cool. Love that. Or we might be going, well, okay, I love you for that. No worries. But, I might look at it a little bit differently, and that's healthy. Yep. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, all right? So let's just kind of go back and let's maybe try to give some perspective, not necessarily some answers to these questions, okay? Yeah. So let's start with the first one. Is God still creating? We're going to acknowledge that there is a belief that God created everything, whether it was at a point in time or whatever, that there's a creator that created everything. So now we say, is God still creating?
Well, I like to say that God is creativity itself.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess the answer would be yes. It's a constant in motion creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah.
This wasn't even a question for me. It's of course.
But there is a belief system on the planet
Yeah.
that everything that has ever been created or is already done. It's already complete. And so there is no more creation to happen. It's just for us to discover it.
Right.
So the creativity is just our awakening to it, our awareness of it. Both can be right, but there's still things to unfold, things to discover.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, everybody's got their own way they want to, especially when you start to frame God, because it's an abstract concept a lot of time, always pretty much. And that is, if God is creativity, and we talked about this in an episode a while back about God's characteristics, right? If God is creativity, not just creative, right? But creativity, then there's absolutely no way, given that character trait, that there can't be continual creating, and whether it's through us to create a beautiful picture or whatever it might be, it's an ongoing beautiful thing that God's gifted us with. Is His.
We live in an ever expansive, ever created universe, and there's always more,
and it's always
more.
People don't like the word evolve because the minute when you go there, you go to the monkey and you go to the just look at that word as evolve. That it just gets enhanced all along the way, all the time. I mean, how else could you think God would do it? I don't know.
To me, it's exciting to know there's more for me to experience and see, right?
Right.
I mean, that is really cool.
Press in, man.
Yeah.
Press in. So
that's exciting. It gives me joy. I wonder how I'm going to experience God differently this morning than I did yesterday.
Yeah. Well, sometimes when I see His new creation and I get up with a bad hair day, man, I'm going, okay. No, thank you.
I've seen your hair like that before, and not even in the morning. I've seen it in the afternoon look like that. I still think it's God.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you got a default there. I get it. All right.
Punk rock Mac.
So, is God still creating? That was one of our questions. We used to get this all the time, but it's a pretty common question that gets asked, especially as just life happens. How can bad things happen to good people if God is good? Right, we're going to kind of assume that, but I'm not necessarily thinking that everybody's going to go there. But what's the scoop with that? That's again, that's in a more macro. I'm not talking about your life, but I'm just talking about people. Right?
I don't know. I hope that I don't get in trouble for this, but I don't think God does anything to us. I mean, I just don't. I mean, I think that, we have setbacks in life. And to me, the way I like to look at it is those are setups for something good coming my way. I mean, because that's how I want to see it.
Right.
It doesn't mean I don't feel it when it happens, and it doesn't suck, because it does when things like that happen. Right. But what's your choice?
Yeah.
Right. And I don't sit there and say, "Oh God, why are you doing this to me?" I just don't do that.
Yeah.
So I hope other people can see it that way, because God's loving and God is love. So, right?
Well,
Rev?
and you're preaching my sermon. God is love. We're using these adjectives to describe God. I say God is the noun. It is love itself.
Right.
And so when bad things are happening, I like to use this analogy of the river's going to go to the ocean. It's all it knows what to do. It's going to the ocean. That's what I liken God. I've taken the personality out of it. I'm either cooperating with that current or I'm not. And so bad things happen when I'm trying to fight the current. So it's just a call when bad things are happening in my life to get back in touch with where is that current within me? How can I cooperate with it more? The current, the river does not care if I'm cooperating or fighting it. It's going to buoy me up if I cooperate with it. It'll lift me up and get me to the ocean of magnificence.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's beautiful. I mean, I think that's a great picture of the way it works. Although we tend to want to default because we're human. We love an answer to something. We don't like something to be unknown. That happens. I want to know why. Okay, especially if it's something bad. Something happens bad to me or to someone that I know, or even just, I remember people, years ago when the tsunami hit there in Indonesia. Remember that? And then there was some of the folks out there in the ether that were saying, well, that was a bunch of godless people out there, and God just sent the tsunami so that He could, punish them. That kind of, I just think when we adopt those kinds of perspectives, then it gives us a warped perspective of God, which is, can't explain anyway, but, we try.
Well, because we want to live in the personality of this image created, this God created in our image, and we give it a personality. and we describe it with words. Vengeful. That sounds like a vengeful God. I can't believe in that God, so I just have to believe in the noun. Love. God is an energy, the river, the flow, period. And I want to cooperate with it. I want to immerse myself into the waters of God being and know that if a bad thing happened yesterday, it'll be better tomorrow because I do that.
Amen. Can we just drop the mic right now? Maybe we just thought, okay.
I was dangerously close to a bunny trail.
Do we need these other questions? I don't know.
Well, how about this? If you have a perception about God and his involvement in the world, right? And we're talking in a macro sense now. But so here's the question: did God just create the world, the cosmos, at all, and then just wind it up like a clock and just let it go? Okay, there it is. Did my work. Okay.
You're on your own.
Right.
Bye.
Yeah, I'm going over here on vacation now.
I'll be back later.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and hands off for the most part, and we get to screw up, and we get to do bad stuff, and we just, we're on our own. Like I said, just there it is. There is a God that we think out there somewhere, but not involved, not engaged. What do you think about that? What do you think about that concept? How does God, how does that look like God? I don't know.
I'm going to defer to the coach over there.
Well,
he looks like he's got wisdom.
Yeah. You wrote a word after this question, deism, right? And my understanding of deism is that it believes in the existence of God,
right?
But God does not actively intervene in the world that God created.
Right. That would be a
That's
deist.
deism.
Yes.
Deism. So I have a stewism. You ready for this?
Wait a minute. Hold on. You know what we need?
Hold the posture.
Can I do this?
Wait. You know what I need here as far as our clips? I need a buckle. I need
Strap in, boys and girls.
Strap in. Here we go.
Okay, here we
go.
go.
There was deism. Here's a stewism.
Stewism.
Right. So God in stewism.
Okay.
God participates in all aspects of your life. However, he allows you to drive the car. So you decide where you're going, how fast you're going. If you run out of gas, you got to fill up the tank.
Oh, so God's not the gumball machine that we talk about, right? That you stick the quarter in and just say, oh, okay, God, crink. Now I get the goodies, right? No. Well, this goes back to Jung's quote right there, right? We have the choices that we make, and it doesn't matter what choices we make. God's going, all right, let's see what we're going to do about that choice.
But is that guidance always there? It's always present. It cannot be separate from us. And it's always moving in the direction of our highest good. We're either paying attention to it or not paying attention to it.
There's the catch.
Yes.
It's like standing, you're driving the car and the God's telling you, the guidance is coming.
Yep.
Shut up back there. Don't make me come back there. Shut up. I've got this.
Right.
That's when we get in trouble.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I
exactly.
agree. So
yeah.
It's an interesting thing to ponder, but doesn't it give you a much greater sense of calm and peace and trust and excitement to think that it wasn't just wound up and left, that we're actually integrated in the whole process, that, God's for us, right? God's for us. And so if you really adopt that, I think things change.
I'd like to say life cannot be separate from what life is. And life is God, plain and simple.
Period.
It's the same thing. And so we can't be separate from God except in our own mind to believe that.
Right.
So God is the life itself.
Wow.
Everywhere present at all times.
There's the choices that Stu was talking about. I mean, we got a choice to make that perspective or not.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So,
Well, think of raising your own kids. You're always there. Papa's always there. I'm here, but I'm not going to interfere with your life choices, even if I disagree. But I'm here if you need me.
right. And what I am going to part to you is wisdom and perspective and all these other things that'll try to keep you from going in the ditch. But again, it's still your choice. Okay. I'm available to offer my counsel, to offer my guidance, to offer whatever it might be. But hey,
Free will, right?
I've given you all the tools you need to create the most magnificent life. Here you go. Use the tools.
Right.
If you want advice on how to use those tools, check in with headquarters. But you're on your own to figure it out.
Headquarters. I love
like that. Yeah,
okay.
that's
the
good.
CEO. All right. Well, here's the significance of why we're asking these questions. These are the macro questions. These are the bigger, the cosmic, pondering points that we try to impart to you. But how you answer these questions, if you think about them and you go, well, let's see, is God still creating? Wow, I hadn't thought about that in a long time. The point is, when you start to think about these things and answer them, however you do, it makes a big difference. Okay?
Asking the question in of itself opens the portal of creativity.
Yes.
Being willing to sit with the question and the mystery.
So ask yourself each one. They're going to be in the show notes, okay? So ask yourself these questions in the quiet of your own place, because what you're doing is you're massaging, you're articulating, and you're forming your worldview. And your worldview is, in a large extent, formed by how you look at God, or whatever. I mean, just going to use as a general term. Even if you're looking at it to say that God doesn't exist, I mean, that's still part of your worldview, okay? And it's going to formulate a lot of your decisions, a lot of your perspectives. So it matters, guys and gals. It matters. So, with that, we're going to kind of just leave you thinking about that. We're going to take a little bit of a break, and then we're going to come back now and talk more specifically about you and me and these guys personally. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll be right back.
I want to leave that run because it was about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I got it here.
Here's something that happened with my video. I forgot to turn off one of my alarms. So it went off, it stopped the video, and I didn't catch it for like 3 minutes.
Oh.
So you're going to have like 2 videos from me. And
let me ask too, should I stop it now?
No.
Okay. I don't want to run out of memory here.
I think you'll be all right.
No, okay. we're not going to hang
Just
here.
so you know, with mine, that's what happened.
Okay.
So
all right.
The missing years of Jesus, the missing minutes of Stu.
Where'd Stu go?
This is from what, 12 to 30? Is that way? Or
he
33?
was studying in the East.
12 to about 30. That's right. Oh, God.
The missing Stu years. I did get Stuism in there, though.
You did. I love that, man. That was awesome. All right. All right. Welcome back to the Wise Guys. Where in this episode, we are attempting, or at least we're throwing it out there to say, does God have a plan? All right. And we've tried to take the first half of this episode and kind of walk through some of the bigger picture stuff that we might apply toward that, answering that question, or at least pondering the question. Maybe we can't answer it, but it's a bigger stuff. Now we said we were going to spend the rest of the episode talking about how we narrow it down to us personally, corporately, but to the people. All right, let's just
to the people.
Us, the people. Right. So let's do kind of what we did before. We're going to fire hose you a little bit. All right. So here's some micro perspective on, does God have a plan? All right.
And so we asked the question, how involved is God in the everyday happenings in our lives?
Is there a customized, unique plan for each of our lives?
Do you believe that God says, I love you and I'm for you?
Can we ever be separated from God?
How or does God answer prayers? Is there more?
Is our amount of faith a determining? Isn't it?
Is our amount of faith a determining factor?
Hey, you're leaving me holding the bag over
I wrote something between that. Yeah.
Part of the faith of Stuism is living in the silence for a moment.
All right, let's do that one again.
Let me do that one again. How or does God answer prayers? Is our amount of faith a determining factor?
Is God capricious? Can we manipulate God?
Ooh, I'm getting uncomfortable. Does God bless some and not others?
No, I can answer that one right now.
So
good. We're in total agreement.
We're in agreement. No. Yeah, let's just go have a beer. All right, we're done.
Cheers.
So, all right. So with that, boom, those are some of the questions that we came up with. You might have your own, but we kind of fire hosed you to make a little bit of an impact about how important some of these questions can be, especially as you ponder them and you wrestle with them, and as you maybe come up with some answers for yourself. So we'll fold back, all right? And so let's start with the one that says, I love you and I am for you, says God. What do you think about that? Huh? Do you believe that? Is that something that you can resonate with, or is there some yeah buts?
That's the key. I think for that to be true, you have to. It is true, but I think for it to be true, you have to accept it.
Yes.
Like it's almost like a gift. Like if you don't take the gift, you don't have it. So that's kind of how I see that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to carry it a little further. That's I always like to do.
Course,
I love you and
ahead.
I'm for you. I love you and I'm with you. I love you and I'm expressing as you.
Yeah.
That's how much I love you.
Now that to me that excites the living stew out of me. So, you adopt that perspective, man. I'm telling you, you'd strap in.
It makes it personal.
Okay.
It brings it right here and not separate from me.
Right.
I love you so much that I've given my only begotten entity and energy and son and self to be expressed at the point of view. Now, I know that for some, that's a difficult concept. But when I got that, I felt more love than I'd ever known my entire 63 years.
I love that, man. So, here's what I say to all that. Thank you.
For sure, yeah.
Thank you that you've included me in the whole thing, because I am you and you are me.
How
right?
blessed.
Yeah.
How blessed are we?
Oh, I love it, man.
That we're that loved.
So, all right, let's ask the next question. How involved is God, or would you think God is, in the everyday happenings of our lives?
Yeah, God's always there. We talked about this a little bit earlier.
Right.
He's in the good, and especially during like tribulations and such, like when things aren't going our way. God, I think especially in those moments, God is there.
I felt it in some of my darkest hours. I felt in essence that you're okay. You're going to be all right. But if we're not experiencing God or love or life in that moment, guess who moved? We're the ones that moved, and it's just a matter of moving back into congruity.
Yeah, and I think what can come up in this question as well, without running a bunny trail, and that is, do certain things that happen in our life, good or bad, I'm not categorizing them, happen as a result of God going blessing, curse, blessing, curse.
No, I don't believe that. No.
Right. Okay. So, I don't either, but, I think you can go sometimes with depending upon your theology, that you can attribute to God, the specific happenings in your life, again, as you categorize them as good or bad.
Well, and that's easy to do. If I define myself only as a human being having an earthly experience, that's a philosophy that does work. I don't understand why bad things. We are called on the spiritual path to define ourselves as spirit, as light, as love, as Christ, as the Buddha, as whatever you want to call it. When we do that, we can't, that kind of God dies.
Right.
But, it feels like suffering. Bad things happen to people on the earth.
Yeah.
But when I realize, when a crucifixion is happening and I rise above it and define myself by something greater, it's not God doing it to me. There are those that say we're not punished for our sins, we're punished by our sins, our sleeping, our mistakes.
Yeah.
And the grace is we're only one breath, one idea, one moment away from going back and being okay again.
Well, we talked to last week. We talked about in our episode. We talked about, and the words to the wise. It was like, if you have a plan A and it doesn't work out, now you have plan B. And I thought it was very insightful that the Rev was saying, because I think it taught me something for sure, that said, well, failing at plan A is part of the plan, because you can't experience the joy and the overcoming and the whatever it might be when you have to go to plan B, And so they're all, we talk about this holism all the time, that everything's connected all the time. And so you can say something and you go, oh yeah, but we were talking about that over here. Remember that? Oh, yeah, that kind of fits in here too, doesn't it? So
when I failed at plan A, I found more love at plan B than I thought was even possible.
Right.
So because I listened to that energy that was right there in the midst of my failure, in the midst of my dark night.
I hear you.
I had to turn to something greater.
Yeah. Well, here's a real important question. Okay, I think this is the one you need to. If you can't answer it definitively one way or the other, when I ask it, think about it. Think about the ramifications either way. All right, whether you answer the question yes or you answer it no. Think about that. Here's the question: can we be separated from God?
No. Period. Next question, please.
Coach Stu
Rest my case.
Stu wants to drop the mic right there, man. Okay.
From the gospel of Stuism.
That's a Stuism. Oh, all right. So, I mean, I would agree with that. Rev?
I'm going to join the Stu camp there. We can't be, but we can sure feel like it.
Well,
we
you can
sure
pull
be
yourself
thinking
out.
it. I can pull myself out, but
Right.
God's going to follow me and is there.
Right.
Again, through grace, I can make a different decision. But the reality is we cannot be, and I'm going to be blasphemous here, we cannot be separate from that which we are. And so if God is expressing at the point of us, I can run and run and run and run, there's no place. I think in the Old Testament, there's no place that not the deepest pits of Sheol or hell or the tallest mountain or the deepest ocean, God's there.
Right.
No. I can sure believe it, and that puts me immediately in hell.
Oh, all right. So it's a very, very important question, right? Because again, we would answer this collectively, the three of us, in our perspective and thoughts about God. Like Stu just wants to, that's it, drop the mic. The answer is no. All right. But I'm not so sure that I'm sure that there's some of you out there that are going, well, what about? What about if I sin? What about if this happens? What about if this condition happens? And we all have a lot of these different things that we've been taught that are part of our theology, are part of our worldview.
You know what I like to teach? You use the word sin, you put it out there, so I'm going to run with it.
Okay.
The only sin I believe, if you trace every bad thing that ever happened, was in its root, somewhere there was a belief in separation from God. Yeah. Somewhere there was an action that was founded upon a belief of separateness from God. If we can heal that, all of this stuff goes away. Sin is an archery term that just means missing the mark. I forgot. Surely God was here and I did not know it. No, now I'm awake again. Mm-hmm. But you can go back to all the ills of humanity. That's its root.
Well, I think there's a great sense of comfort that you can say, okay, maybe I don't totally believe this because I'm just having a little struggle with it. But gosh, if the fact that I can never be separated from God is true. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. And this is not just a pretty theory for me. No. I used to live in hell because I had bad things happen to me. We'll maybe talk about it at some point on the podcast. That it's like God's not here. Sir, God is not here. And when I began to just open a corner of my mind that God is here and I'm going to find it. I'm going to find him. I'm going to find her. I began to look with different eyes and feel with a different heart. And suddenly life became brighter. It wasn't all dark. It wasn't all depression. It was like I had a way out.
Yeah.
God, for me, has been the way out of those dark nights. Mm-hmm. And it just started with opening a corner of my mind.
Right.
I can't feel it right now in this moment. I don't see it,
exactly.
But I'm going to keep looking.
Yeah, but I'm going to trust that it's true. Okay.
Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door will be opened.
Well, that's right. Okay. All right. Here's kind of this may be the last one that we're gonna go over, but I think a lot of people struggle with this one as well. How or does God answer prayers? All right. So do we have beseeching, and then we have an answering, or is it the amount of our faith, or is there some incantation or proper procedure that we need to go through, or words we need to say in order to stimulate God answering a prayer or reacting to or acting upon?
Well, Mac, since we are beautiful exotic cocktails, it is different for each of us. Like for me, for instance.
Okay.
I hear, and I have shared with the both of you, that I get messages from people at the gas station.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
In movies. Mm-hmm. which is why I watch movies over and over and over again.
Yeah, he's our movie expert. Siskel and Ebert right here.
Right,
man.
yeah, right. In music, I mean, it comes in hearing some phrase said on the radio that grabs my attention because I'm paying attention. Yep. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, my antennas are up. So, for me, that's how it works. I've had it in the middle of a wrestling match, not me wrestling, but me coaching. Yeah, and I've received a message because I'm looking for those.
Well, so let me make a point right there. Yeah. You're looking for those, but you don't have a predetermined expectation of what it looks like.
Not anymore. There was a time.
Well, okay, all right. This is an
not going to say I've been like this forever, and I say that intentionally because I want everybody to know it's not like we've always been this way.
Right.
Like we've grown and learned over the years, and I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've stiff-armed God a lot, but I don't do that anymore because it's important to me.
I would love to say I don't do it anymore, period. Most of the time. Better than I used to be.
Right. Yeah, better. I'm a little bit better than there's a song about that. Anyway.
So I would encourage everybody to find what this is for you because it'll be something unique to you. I agree. Yeah. You could be on a farm and you're taking care of animals, and when you're spending time with those animals, feeding the pigs or whatever, like something happens. Yeah. Like you get a thought. You feel something deep down inside.
You're attuned to that. Your radar is out. I said the people who are looking for the river to get to the ocean will find it.
Right.
You've got to keep looking. You can't give up after a day or two. The river is there, and the current is wanting to lift you up and take you there. But you got to keep attuned.
Well, yeah, and again, there's not all these hoops and things, and again, like I said, the word incantation, or I'm just going to call it a prayer, or saying the right words. Again, let's go back to what we already talked about. God's for us. Okay,
yes.
God's for us.
Yes.
All right. So the minute we get off the idea that we have, as I always talk about the gumball God, where you put the quarter in and you turn the crank, and now you get the prize. All right. It's a relationship. It's a conversation. We're in it together, co-creating together.
And everybody's got a different tool.
Yeah.
If the tool is working for you and you're finding that God, that love, that life, that light, whatever it is, keep using that tool.
Right. It'll manifest great stuff.
But eventually you get to the place where the tool gets set down, and now it's a place of presence, a place of being. And let me tell you, that is holy. I've touched that place. I call it the high meadow. And I've been there, and I come down to the valley still. I'm human, but then I know what the high meadow feels like. Right. And so I use the tool again and get back up there and set the tool down. Here I am. I don't know if I'll be here on earth forever. If I get to the place where I'm just 100% there, I'll enter the cult of Stuism.
Well, these are important questions. All right, these are important things to think about and how they affect us and our lives and our perspectives and our relationships. And all we're saying is we're not trying to tell you to think one way or the other. We're sharing how we might look at it. And all we're offering to you is the challenge, I'll just call it a challenge, to think about it and come to maybe a new understanding that you've never had before.
Keep your mind open. Keep your heart open. Keep your eyes open.
Does that make sense or not? But I think it can change a lot of things if you truly will be willing to all these questions that we're asking. I mean, the whole episode, pick one. Pick one of those questions that we just been throwing out there at you and just sit with it, especially if you struggle with it. If you don't have the immediate answer like Stu did, no. Okay, you're done.
Just go watch a movie.
No period. Next question, please.
Go to the Sanctuary of Stu and go to the Cineplex.
That's right. So, I'll be there.
So just understand, God loves all of us, all right? Equally. Let me just use that word too. There is no bestowing greater or lesser on anybody. Right? That just isn't God's character. I mean, it just doesn't work that way. So when we do mess up, let's go back now. Let's finish up and let's go back to Paul Young's statement that we talked about in the beginning. All right? So when do you guys want to just read that? We'll finish up.
Go for it, Coach.
What if there is no plan for your life, but rather a relationship in which God constantly invites us to co-create, respectfully submitting to the choices we bring to the table? He then climbs into them and begins to craft something living and useful and good even from the worst of our ignorant blunders.
Isn't that beautiful? Doesn't that give you, for me, it does, maybe it doesn't, but for me, I kind of close my eyes and I picture God, you got to give it up some sort of climbs in and begins to craft something useful and living. I don't know. I just get that picture in my mind of it as we try to understand that. And that just, I love that. I don't know how else to say it, right?
There's some comfort in the knowledge I can't mess this up.
Oh, yeah.
I can't screw it up. God's more powerful than my mistakes.
Absolutely. So, what do you think,
true.
guys?
So true.
Anything else? Huh? Man, better exhale over this one,
Deep breaths.
Yeah. Good stuff, though. Good stuff.
It'll preach.
Yeah. I really do think that and for me personally, even still, that just going through this exercise is helpful for me, let alone trying to say, hey, you guys need to get it. But we hope that it truly has helped you. Just make your life better, right? Didn't we talk for years about just making it a little bit better?
Just a little bit better, yeah.
I mean, just just fine tuning the dial a little bit. And then what'll happen is that picture will get a little clearer, and then you're going to want it even a little clearer. You're going to keep, it's a progression, I guess is what I'm saying. So thanks a bunch, wise guys. So much fun tonight, right?
Where's our music? Outro.
Thank you.
Oh, well, no outro.
I kind of wanted to end with this, this emphasis that we're giving to what Young was saying. And, think about it for yourself. We challenge you in this, right? You got the MI5 challenge always. So.
Well, it's fun to play ball, throw a ball around with you guys.
Yeah.
I love it.
So thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks so
good
much.
Stuff.
Thank you for listening to us. And I think we mentioned this last week. But next week, our next episode, which we'll do next week, we're going to have a guest. And so I think you're really going to enjoy him. I think he's going to make you think about some things, maybe that you haven't thought in that way. And that's what this podcast is all about.
That's right.
Thinking differently.
I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, he's going to be great. I've loved having the conversations with him that I have to this point. So please tune in next week where we're going to have another
unthinkable
conversation. All right. Thanks, gang. Have a great week. Take care.